Okay, we're going to continue on with CAD model features on this third part. This is the part we're going to be creating, this circular cylinder here. So it's a 4-inch diameter by 1.5-inch extrusion. So that's the first thing that we need to create. And that should be very simple, something we've done a few times. So once you have created that, the next thing that you're going to need to do is set another sketch on top of this that we're going to use for the holes that we're going to create. So let's create a sketch on the flat side of that. And we're going to use the center point command here. And we do want to make sure that on the right side here that we're using center point, that's actually what's being created, because that will help out this process. So we're going to just put a point in here like that, and then we're going to dimension it from the center. So the proper dimension on that from the assignment, and again, if you don't have the Word document up, Word document is very helpful, keeps track of all the information. So this point that we're going to start here, we're going to make this series of points around here to put the holes in. This point up here is on this circle going around, that is 0.25 inches in diameter. Since that's a diameter for that circle, and we're measuring from the center up, we're just going to do a radius, which is 1.25 inches, and set that. Then we're going to use a circular pattern to create that series of points around. So the first thing we do is select the geometry, which is that point, and then the axis, which is the center of the circle. That puts 6 of those in. Well, we only need 5, so let's change our count to 5. And then we're all set with those points. We can finish the sketch on that one. Now we are going to use this sketch more than once. So in a bit we're going to create a shared sketch, but first let's put our first hole in. So when we look at our instructions here, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 holes, and they all have slightly different types. So we go down through the first hole that we're going to want to do is a simple single hole that's called a through hole. And so in here, if you're just following along from the Word document or you want to work ahead on your own, you can just follow along each of the directions there. So the first one is a through hole, and so we're going to make it from sketch, centers, and then click the first box. And it's a 0.25 inch in terms of diameter. So let's do that. We're going to use the hole command here. And then when we select that, it actually finds all of those center points. We don't want those all, just the one with the yellow ring around it. So holding down the Shift key, click and remove the other holes from consideration. It's 0.25 inches for the diameter. It's a simple through hole already set here, and the termination is through all. Once all those things are the same, you can check those. We're good to go. We just click OK. Now, we can't use that sketch again unless we make it available to ourselves. We're going to click the plus next to hole, open that up, and on sketch 2, we're going to right click and share sketch. When we share that sketch, those other points become available to us again, which is good. So we're going to go to the hole command once again, and we're going to work on our next hole. So again, we need to use the Shift, hold that down to get rid of the extras. We only want the one with the gold rim. And this time, this type of hole we're going to be creating is called a counter bore. And so it's got the image here that we want to recreate, the 0.75, 0.25, 0.375, selecting the right type of hole and put that in. So in Inventor, I'm going to switch to counterbore hole. This top measurement was 0.75. The depth measurement here is 0.25. And then our diameter is a 0.375. So once we've got all those measurements set, it's already adapting. This is the type of hole that you can have a screw head or a bolt head that sits down into your object and doesn't get in the way of the face. So go ahead and click OK on that. And we're going to start with the next hole. So looking at the directions, we go from counterbore to a countersink. So this is more like what would fit specifically a screw head. It's got that angled bit there, and so we are creating an angle. So 0.75, 82 degrees, and 0.375 are the measurements that we're going to be using here. So now we're switching to a countersink, and that's at the bottom here. So 0.75, 82 degrees, 0.375, sounds like the right measurements. Double check on that. And that is what we want. We just need to not choose these other two holes. So we're going to use the shift, click on those to remove those. One thing we're going to do differently this time is we're going to apply that, and that puts that hole in, but then it allows us to switch the next two holes and work on those. So I'm going to remove the one we don't want, and let's take a look and see what the next type of hole is. This one is a tapped hole. Tapped hole is threaded, so we're using the first set here as our through hole, but then we're also going to add the tapped feature down at the bottom here, and that will open up these thread counts that we'll look at. So let's do that. So we're going to go to a through hole and then a tapped hole down here at the bottom, and that opens up our thread count. Now the designation is given in lots of different places, lots of different ways, and the designation is going to depend on that you have the right size in here. So the size is a 0.25, so we're going to go find 0.25, and then a 1/4 20 UNC is the type of thread, and that will mean how the threads go in there. So that's all well there, so we can go ahead and click OK. We can zoom in a little bit, and you can see that this one now shows that it has threads in it. So a screw or something like that would fit. All of these measurements and whatnot, if you look back at the original drawing, are there. That's the 25 through. Here is the counter bore. Has a large diameter is the first measurement, the 0.375. It has the small diameter, the diameter of the whole hole, 0.375, the large diameter for the bolt head at 0.75, and then the depth of that at 0.25. This little half sort of box cut off, open up box shape here indicates counterbore, where the V shape or sort of point shape indicates the countersink. The 1/4 20 UNC is a thread count, so that's where we get the thread amounts on that. So those are how we can see those particular types there. And so pay attention to those whenever you're later on doing one and you're trying to put in the correct hole. So let's see what we have next for our last hole here. And the last one is a clearance hole. So it's going to be, again, from the bottom here, it's going to have some slightly different measurements, so we need to get those in. 0.531 for the diameter of the hole, set it to a clearance hole, and make sure we have the right type. So let's get that set up, and then we'll make sure we have all of the right details. So this is going to be a clearance hole now, and a diameter of 0.531. Makes it kind of large. We wanted it for this is for a hex head bolt, and so we make sure we get the right size here. Hex head bolt 1/2 inch normal fit. So we're going to switch that to 1/2. Oops. A 1/2 inch size. Okay. So that sets the last one of those. I'm going to click OK, and then we're going to save this into the folder that we've been saving our other stuff, which would be the CAD model features. So make sure that you include that in the CAD model features folder, and this is, you can just call this whole.